Hello, everyone. My name is Aurora, and I'm back again with another music interview. I'm excited for this guest because I know him again through Berkeley, and he's releasing some pretty good music. He is a hyperpop artist, and I would like to introduce to Eve Street. Everyone, introduce yourself.
Hello. It's always funny to introduce yourself. Yeah. So we met through a Berkeley class. I'm Eve Street. I'm from Connecticut. I've been producing and writing my own music for a good couple of years now, and this is a really cool opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I don't really know
I
what to introduce.
Of course, I'm so glad that you're here. I just want to say that I really, really enjoy your music. Uh, Whenever
Thank you.
you drop, like whenever I was like looking through like your projects, and then I think you posted a link to your music through the discussion board, or
I
it
think it might
was
have been on a class. It was like towards the end, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Or you know what? It might have
yeah.
been a discussion.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know if it was from the beginning or to the very end, but like I was listening to it and I very much enjoyed it, especially your first album. Like it
Thank
was
you.
so like warm. I remember I was driving down to like Barnes and Nobles and I was like, let me just like play like your music. And it was very like I get why that album picture fits with like your song choices because it feels like home. It feels so alternative and relaxing. Some half of the tracks before it gets into like the really like fun, more hyper pop sound at the end, it reminded me of if you ever played Life is Strange. Uh
Yeah, yeah.
like I was like you got to I was like Square Enix, whoever, they need to get this man onto
I gotta get my
these
number.
games. Exactly,
My
because
line is open.
I was like this I could imagine myself sitting into like the chairs or whatever scenic route for Life is Strange and just think and just listen to the music and just vibe, get lost out there.
I just want to say driving to Barnes and Noble might be the ideal listening scenario for my music. I love like it's so much like driving music and I adore Barnes and Noble. So I heard that and I was like, she gets it. Like that's that might be actually the ideal listening conditions.
That it meets the criteria. It meets the vibe. Okay. So, I don't know if you want me to say your real name or if we want to go to Eve Street. I've
We'll just kind of go I kind of with online I've just kind of stuck with Eve.
okay. Okay, cool. So, with Eve Street, how did you come up with that name first and foremost?
So I often joke that there's like multiple stories that are all equally true. But like the it was kind of a lot of factors. I think like the main idea of it was kind of this thing. Like I always kind of knew I wanted to work under like a pseudonym. Like I liked
Mhm.
the idea. And I don't know if it was just to like kind of separate it in my head of like that's the music. I like I don't have to
Mhm.
fully take ownership. But it was kind of this thing of thinking about it for a long time and then realizing like not even in a changing my name way, just like, oh, I really identify with the name Eve. I think that's really cool. And kind of how this like grew into like that's the musical persona almost like
Mm.
that's like it just realized I like identified with it and like with the type of music I was writing it just felt correct and then I kind of was like Eve Street. Oh, that's it. It was
Mm.
kind of this weird thing of like I said it and I was like, oh, that's the name.
That's you just felt it in your gut, you know?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I so you just so one day you were just like sitting down like with Nate. Did it just came naturally or you were just sitting down like
I think it was a little bit of both. If I'm being honest, I think like because I had Eve, and then there was like I had like a picture from time hanging out with friends where like I took a picture of a street sign that said Elm Street, but that was like a really significant emotional because we had like a really deep talk. And I think in my head, I don't even know if I was thinking about names as much as I was just kind of thinking, and I was like, oh, Eve
mhm.
Street, and like for some reason those dots connected, and I was like, I like that. That's
That's
correct.
that's pretty cool. Eve Street. I can imagine it being a real street somewhere, but like it's your own lane. It's your own music. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um
I have looked up like where are there streets? I just gotta go like find one.
you should trade mark that street.
They stole
it's
my whole thing.
right, exactly. Um it was kind of the same thing with me when I was creating my name and my user. Um First it was like I had like tons of like game usernames at the time, and then I really love Kingdom Hearts, so I was like uh Roxas. Roxas is one of my favorite characters. And then I love also the Cheshire Cat from Alice, but like more of Alice Mass Returns, if you ever play that game. So then I
I
was
haven't.
like,
I do.
okay, Roxas, Cheshire Cat, and then I mix rocks with cat, and then that's how I was able to be like, oh, okay, rocks cat management, because I like those two so much.
I really like that. That's a good story. I love taking it. Like I love taking things from like video media and stuff and like kind of mixing it. That's really good. Rock's cat is like so memorable.
Mhm. Oh well, thank you. Okay, so then bringing it back to the music, because I would love to talk more video game stuff maybe later on, but
Yeah.
okay, so your first album, again, I just want to say it was so refreshing to hear. I've only spoken to like a few artists and only seen like a couple of like videos of the album making process. I just want to kind of hear from your own words. What was your creative process like? Was it spontaneous? Did you map out a story based on experiences, or was it just like you start with a concept and just went from there?
I feel like as much of a cop out as it sounds like, it's such a mix of all of them because like
Mm,
I had from very early on, like before Home existed, I had this idea of like what the like narrative and emotional arc of it was going to be. That
mm-hmm,
it was like this constant build towards like the more crazy and like busy electronic songs before it like kind of settles out. And I knew that, and I would be lying if I said I had the entire story mapped out from the beginning or that I knew exactly where it was going to go. But
mm-hmm,
there was a lot of moments of things coming back around and those ideas coming back around. Like the last song, I remember I wrote the lyrics to that probably like 6 to 9 months before I wrote that song. But like I knew it was the last song. I remember saying to a friend, like he was like, "Oh, how you doing?" I was like, "I just wrote the last song of the album, and I didn't even know the album's name yet." Like I
mm.
was debating whether or not it was Home. I was between like a couple of names.
Really? Wait, so what could the other names be? Do you
Um,
know?
so Home is kind of like very much a follow up to my first EP, Growth, and I was like, well, maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'll make it a trilogy. Before I was like, well, and then I realized like, no, it's not. This is the arc of it. So I was kind of trying to think of like I wanted to end with Home. So I was kind of just thinking of anything to fill in that middle part. So I threw around a lot of like one word titles like Presence or Faith and stuff, but I kind of just always came back to Home and
Mm.
knew like, yeah, no, that's what this project is.
I like that you, cause here's what I'm listening, right? You finished the last track and then you said, you know what, like home feels like complete. Is that what I'm understanding, right? Because I love moments like
I
that.
It wasn't the last track I finished, but I finished it and I knew for certain that that was the resolution of it, which is funny to finish like kind of the
Ooh.
resolution of the story before like everything else is set in place. But it was like
Mm-hmm.
sort of that closure of like, oh, this is the end of this. And that's yeah.
I love that. It's like completing a journey, you know? And another like side question then, because I heard like trilogy, like what, like I know that concept was like kind of scraped from what I'm hearing, but like what what made you in the first place want to do like a trilogy?
Well, I knew that the albums were connected.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, it could be cool to make this a three-part thing, right? Because I have like my first EP and my and Home like have very similar covers, and I was like, well, I have more pictures of a house like that. and I was kind of thinking about how many steps are there in this story,
Mhm.
about like how long is it going to take me to kind of come to this place.
Mhm.
So I think I realized just like I can't, because so much of like writing, at least for me, is just like kind of being honest in a way that's very uncomfortable at times. I was like, if I'm being realistic, there isn't another step to this. Like the story that started in growth ends in home. So it wasn't even as much
Mm.
that like I scrapped the concept of a trilogy as much as I just realized like, oh wait, no. Like I'd been thinking like, oh well maybe I'll write the third one after this. I was like, no, that story ends here. I
Mm.
don't know if that makes sense or answers the question.
It does. Cuz you just felt like it was just complete. Like there was, you
Yeah.
know.
Even things like because there like I had this idea from starting growth of like the first song on that's called Monday. And like I had this idea from when I wrote that I was like, whenever this story finishes, that song's gonna be called Sunday. Like the last song on this story, which is
Mm.
then the last song of Home.
Mhm.
Um, which like I wrestled with that. I was like, do I want this to be that song? But I just kept I knew like this is that song.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so there's a lot of things where like I knew like the themes carry over even through like different sounds and stuff.
That's pretty neat. I love hearing moments like this where you just in your gut know, like in your heart of hearts, you know. And I actually felt that through like the track. Like I actually have like a small like notebook where I write down stuff. I know we talked about this before. And I remember one of the things that I've written down when listening to it just made me like I know listening to the first half again, it reminds me of Life is Strange. But the reason why I like that game is because it makes you think. It makes you go back to like a time to be like, you know what, I did like grow from this, or I'm exploring all different possibilities into my future, and that's what I felt listening to this album. It was fun. Like I love the beats. I love hyperpop. It's my most favorite thing. But just to like sit in into the to the rest of the album, and it's very calming, feels very reassuring. Is I love it. I really do love. You did such a good job with your first album.
That's really awesome to hear. Thank you. And it's really cool because like the first half. Sorry, and if we need to move, I will stop
No,
talking.
no, no, no.
Uh, the first half are almost all, not entirely, but a lot of the songs on the first half are written almost as lullabies, which is
Yes.
like, so to hear that they're like, but not like literally to sing as a lullaby, but that was something, which is why like a lot of them have, like why the last one's called like Cradle, right? It's like the idea
Yeah.
of like going to sleep. Um, or the last like quiet song on the album, like before it goes like more
Mm-hmm.
electronic. Um,
Yes.
so it's really cool to hear like, because you never know how much those ideas translate to other people, right? Because it's like, well, I know these ideas, but I don't know if I
Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool. So then we're gonna blend in like the whole like other half of the album to now your new album. Okay, because your first album kind of leaned into that alternative hyperpop, where with your new single "Hold On," it feels more fun and electric. So what can listeners expect from your upcoming album, and do you already have a favorite track for us?
favorite track is really hard because it changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It like changes. It's like whenever I work on one, I'll be like, "Oh, I really like this one." I'm like, "Do I?" Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so my favorite track right now is probably the closing track. I think that's the one that again I tend to really like those ones because I like building a story throughout, like an emotional movement throughout an album, and having that like closing point is always really important to me. So
Mm.
I think that one. It's hard to pick favorites when you've been working on something for a while, but I think the closing track is the one that really stands out to me. Um,
Mm.
and as for what people can expect, I think it's more of that like fun hyperpop sound. It was kind of like in the structure of Home, it was building towards more electronic stuff, and now it's finally embracing that. It's finally
Mm.
like ending up where the goal was, and
Mm-hmm.
and kind of exploring that sound in my own way.
Mm. So then with Hold On, why did you choose that to be the first release from this album? What made it the right song to introduce listeners to your music, your new music?
I think part of it was that like it was so thematically perfect because like part of it, the idea is like, oh well, what prompted the switch over to more hyperpop stuff? It was like, well, that was where I
Yeah.
always wanted to end up. Like I kind of
Mhm.
started like wanting to do that, but it took me time to get familiar with how to do it and to discover my voice in that, you know.
Mm.
So I think Hold On was kind of just the perfect introduction to that because this as a song, it's so about like embracing this new style and stepping into it. And like there's lyrics on it where it's like sing your old songs that feels like someone else wrote, write new songs as a promise of tomorrow, where it's like this thing of
Yes.
like looking back on these songs where it's like it's been long enough that it almost feels like someone else wrote them, and like dealing with this uncertainty of stepping into a new sound and exploring it, but trusting yourself and trusting that you've done the work to like learn it and to explore it. I
Mhm.
felt like thematically it really introduced like the emotional journey as well of like deciding to go in this direction, as well as
Yes.
just being kind of a good introduction to the sound.
Mhm. See, like the listeners need to know this song goes hard in the car. Like the bass be very much booming there because I had that track on repeat. So I get what you mean when because there was a lyric that was like, "Hold on, let go, I don't wanna let go," and then this is what you're meant for, and yeah, this one's this one hits hope for me because sometimes I can very much doubt myself and be in my head and thinking like, you know, this is not worth it. I'm tired. I'm very much like frustrated with myself and what I want to do, but then something like it just clicks and makes me you got to keep going. You got to do what you do. You can't give up no matter how much like your depression gets to you or you want to doubt yourself. There is like a light at the end of the tunnel and you just got to keep on going and then those results can go through. If that makes sense.
That absolutely does make sense. I love hearing that. You know, it's yeah, absolutely, and that really like ties into the whole idea of it. Yeah, that's amazing.
I love when people talk about their like when because I dealt with this in music therapy before where you give a person like I know one of the sessions it was um you hand a piece of like music lyric sheet to them and then listen to the track a couple of times and then highlight certain words and then talk about how you feel um when looking at those lyrics. And that's what I kind of did with your whenever you sent me your lyrics, that's what I kind of did. I kind of like highlighted and then put my own connection and twist to it. And I'm imagining with like others who listen to Hold On have a different connection and different meaning to it. And that's what I like about music. Like it's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of things. You can't just like label it into one. And so
Yeah,
I appreciate that you like my spin on what I took on your track when listening to it or whenever I did my review on it a couple of weeks ago.
no, I love that. That's what it's all about. Like I think that's part of the thing with like I tend to write things that are like really specific about myself, but also have a weird degree of like vagueness. Like I
Mm.
remember like I've talked to people and like I have a way of writing and I love that because you put all these things into these songs, like all these life experiences, all these feelings, and then you give it away for people to make their own experiences and their own connections with. And
Mm.
that's I think like kind of the amazing thing. So it's just incredible to hear that like people do make those connections and like with their own lives and stuff because that's exactly why you do it.
Yeah, it's just super beautiful. So then, speaking of again hyperpop, the main thing here, I was reading your at some point when I was doing a little bit more research about you. I was looking at your artist bio from class, and I was curious about two things. One, what is exactly like shoegaze? Because I've never been introduced to it, and I would love like an artist, a list, just name them, and I'll listen to it ASAP. And then two, what inspired you to explore hyperpop? Like, what made this your sound?
So shoegaze is I mean, there's probably better ways to explain it, but to the best of my
Mm.
understanding, it's a genre of like kind of alternative rock that's typically really heavy on like effects like reverb, delay, and echo and things. So it tends to be kind of droning and often is associated with like being kind of dreamlike. And vocals are a lot of times like set further back in the mix and things.
Mm-hmm.
Artists, there's a lot, and there's a lot of different like types of shoegaze. Some that come to mind are an artist named Paranol. Paranol.
Mm-hmm.
He's made an album called "To See the Next Part of the Dream," which is one of the best shoegaze albums I've ever heard. Uh,
Ooh, okay.
it's phenomenal. Uh, One that always comes to mind. People aren't always like sure if this is really like shoegaze, but it's shoegazy. Is "Have a Nice Life," which they're also from Connecticut, so I have to mention them.
Mm,
They made the album Death Consciousness, which is hugely influential.
mm-hmm.
Um, there's a great, I actually can't say the band's name because it's in Chinese and I don't know how to read Chinese, but there's an
Mm,
album called California Nebula, which is one of the best shoegaze albums. That's, if you're ever driving at night, it is one of the best experiences. I mentioned it earlier. I think hyperpop, in a way, was always where I wanted to end up. And I mean, I'm always going to be the type of person to explore a lot of genres. But I remember when I was first like starting to learn to produce my own music and stuff, like really
mm,
wanting to make hyperpop, like talking to a friend about that. But it took a lot of time to kind of build the necessary skills and things to get to a place where I could write things that I was like, yes, this is something I'll release. That
mm-hmm.
was in the hyperpop genre. And I think that there's so many genres that are so special to me, like hyperpop and like shoegaze, that it kind of took exploring those to like build up my confidence and my ability to produce, to then reach a place where I was like, I can do what I've been looking at. Like I've reached the point where I'm gonna
Mm.
dip my toes into hyperpop like I've been hoping to.
Oh, okay. So then you said just, when you start to, create your music, how long have you been doing hyperpop for, or like did you test any other genres out before you land into this one?
So I mean, I'm always probably gonna be the type of person to write like a million different genres. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate. It's kind of just a fact of life for me. Um, but I've been writing music for Eve Street since 2023.
Mm,
Um, I mean, there's always been like music in my life from before that, but it wasn't like for this project.
mm,
It was always kind of looser. I didn't have like the idea of like this is what it's going to. Uh, and I think a big part of it was like, it can be very defeating. You mentioned this earlier, I think, of like getting in your head about like I can't do this. Like was struggling with like learning hyperpop, and I remember like a really clear moment of being like I can't even write music, and I like looked over my keyboards like, what if I did? I was like I know how to play guitar. Like why don't I try that so I can like build my understanding of how to produce music and things. And
mm,
I realized how much I loved it, and like I'm always going to be kind of exploring these other things. But hyperpop was always something that like even if I wasn't working on it, it was something that was in the back of my mind. Like man, I'd love to be able to do that. Like I was always listening to it, which in a way is like almost studying, like as you're getting
mm-hmm.
familiar with like how it works.
Mm-hmm. It almost sounds like it was a step-by-step process,
Absolutely.
because I can relate to that as well. It's like you don't know where to start, but you know the skill that you have, and that's where you could officially start. Like what you said,
Mhm.
like guitar, that's you building up to your sound, and then with guitar, it comes with so many things. Um, like again, like production, and then you said like you had it in the back of your mind. Like it just felt like it was like you had it, and then once you finally reached there, it was just meant to be.
Yeah, it's yeah, it was a really cool thing of literally it was a step by step of like it was maybe not too much, but it was a lot to learn production as a whole and learn to write hyperpop all at once. So I took it step by step with writing like a shoegazy album with my first EP,
Mm.
and then introducing more electronic elements, which I knew I really wanted to do while I was writing
Mm-hmm.
home, and then kind of reaching this point and being like, I think I can do it now.
Mm. That's cool. That's so cool. So then, okay, so with the like electric side and that fuses into that hyper pop, I've also read in also class well about your biggest like musical influences. So I hope I'm saying the names right. I know it's Phoebe Bridgers and Porter Robertson. I've always, that's how you say his name, right? Porter.
Robinson, yeah.
Robinson. Okay. I don't know why I always get that mixed up. So, with those being your two influences, are there any other artists who have shaped your sound? Or what is it about those two that has such a whole, like a strong impact on your creativity?
I feel like there's a ton of artists who have shaped my sound. I feel like once you start making music, it almost I don't changes the way you listen to music. Like the
Mm-hmm.
first time you go like, oh, I like that kick, you're like, what's happening to me? Um, like really, it's a very bizarre thing. So it's a lot of there's a lot of artists who have shaped my sound, but those two in particular stand out just for the ways they've shaped me personally and with my relationship with music. Like they've both written albums that are so deeply important to me. Like I think my two favorite albums of all time are ones they've written. So for Porter Robinson, he wrote Nurture, which it, which
Mm.
is gorgeous. I would recommend it to anyone. Uh, which really was one of those things where it's like I want to be a musician. Like this is
Mm.
and like this is gorgeous. And then Phoebe Bridgers wrote Punisher. And there's just something about the honesty in both of their lyrics and the way that they play with these concepts of mundanity, like Phoebe Bridgers, the way she introduces that and makes it feel magical. And the way Porter Robinson, in his production and in his writing, kind of blends very natural and very synthetic themes and makes them feel like something new.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a lot of their writing, just how honest it is and how gorgeous it is, really. I mean, as well as their production. Um, there's a lot of artists who have like just generally influenced my sound. I mean, for like the early tracks on Home, there's artists like Liam McKay. There's artists like I believe that's his name, like Sign Crush's Motorist, Bon Iver, little things like that. And then the second half is very influenced by artists like Porter Robinson, artists
Mm-hmm.
like Geller, you like that.
Mm. Cause with Porter Robinson specifically, I I love him. I used to listen to a lot of his music up in middle school, prime time, and I remember with him like he had this like whole like anime like style to his music videos, but whenever I listen to his music, it's like I'm inside his world for a bit. It's like I I get like tingles whenever I listen to the music I really like. I'm like, whoo, that feels I get so bubbly and electric. I don't know if you ever done
I
that
know
yourself.
exactly what you mean.
That's
Yeah.
dope. So when it comes to him, like I can close my eyes and just picture like his world whenever I could just picture his world whenever I just listen to his music. Like it's just amazing. Like I just think of sparkles and just bubbles and certain colors like ribbons and everything. Like it just makes me feel that way every time I listen to his music.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of what draws me to each of them is the way that they craft a world out of their music. Like
Mm-hmm.
for Porter Robinson, he literally has projects like Worlds where he was about building like a world. And then Phoebe Bridgers, the way like her writing feels so violently real.
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
like there's things in her writing, like if you look at like one of her most popular songs, Kyoto, like something as simple as the fact that she's like, you called me from a payphone, they still have payphones, it costs $1
Mm.
a minute. Or she was like, I kind of like made that up, it felt right. But it's like that injection of something that's so mundane that makes this scene hit so close, because you're
Mm-hmm.
not just thinking about like because she didn't have to write that. And then you look at like songs like I Know the End, where just the way she crafts this world that like it forces you to inhabit it.
That's pretty dope. I feel like this is a sidetrack. If you could recommend like a Phoebe Bridgers song and a Porter Roberts song, what would it be? Like if anybody has not listened to them yet, like this is their first time, what is the number one track?
That's a good question. That wow. Okay. So if you're going for because Porter Robinson has like kind of distinct eras of music.
Yes. Yes,
If you're
yes.
going for the Nurture era, I would say the best introduction to it is Look at the Sky. It it's
Mm.
the second track on the album. It's the like after the intro track. It is. the best introduction to the themes of it, to the whole idea of it was like an album that took him like 6 years to write, and it was this that was like this immense struggle to get out. It's the best introduction to the sound, the themes.
Hmm.
If you're going for, I'm gonna give over honestly each of his eras because it's
Yes,
hard.
yes, go right ahead.
If you were gonna go for worlds, I'd say maybe Sad Machine. I feel like that's the one that like comes to mind. That or like Flicker. Uh, some people might say like Goodbye to a World, but I feel like you need to have listened to the album for that one to like really, because
Yes.
that's the closing track. And then for his more recent stuff, I'd say Cheerleader. Cheerleader was the first single.
Hmm.
Yeah, first single for his newest album, and it really gets you in like the mindset of like the sort of like Y2K like explosive, colorful sound.
Yes.
And then for Phoebe Bridgers, that's a good question. Um, so if I were picking, this is hard. This is a good question.
I'm so
I
sorry.
feel like no, don't be. No, this is a really good question. Um, it'd probably be a song like Chinese Satellite,
Hmm.
or I feel like Kyoto is probably one of the most popular. I know The End is by far my favorite song on the album, but I don't think that would be the best hook to get someone into it. But Chinese Satellite kind of it not only is it catchy, but it has again this quality of her writing on full display with like these like utterly devastating lines that are like that just really catch you off guard. I think that would probably be one of like what I'd recommend. That
That's
or like
cool.
ICU.
I So I've never listened to Phoebe Bridgers before. So when I go back and look through this all again, like I'm definitely gonna add some tracks into my Apple Music. So thank you for the recommendations. Thank you for answering this hard and hopefully good question.
No, it was a very good. Thank you for giving me a spot. Listen, I'm always happy to talk about music I like. So that was like I was like, ooh, I gotta think about this.
See, I love talking about music too. I love whenever I'm talking to like certain artists or people in general, I just love to get their opinion or be like, what kind of artists are you listening to nowadays? I need something new because whenever like on Apple Music, there's like a station that is like catered to you, and every time I listen to it, it's like, okay, these are nice tracks, but I gotta listen to something new. I I love my song repeats. I love my song repeats, but if I could just add like a one new track at a time, that'd be great for me.
Yeah, kind of introduce. Sometimes it's too much listening to a whole new album. It's nice to kind of get like little recommendations and like kind of add them in. It's less of a
Mm-hmm.
commitment.
Of course. Um, so then I've also so we're gonna stick it to the theme of class before we go back to your music, but I noticed that your interests, like your hobbies, are like teaching and working with people, right? So what do you teach? And was there any type of projects that you collaborated on that kind of inspired your sound or was an influence to your album at some point, or even the first album?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so teaching, I don't do as much anymore, but I used to teach classes for 2 through 4 year olds, like basically like a preschool. I used to run one of those classes alongside another person. And then I also did like personal care for people with special needs and like swim lessons for
Mm,
people with special needs. So it was a lot of stuff like that. Like I love it dearly. I have with school and stuff, I've had to take a step back just because it's such a big
yeah,
commitment.
yeah.
Um, but I do think that stuff has really shaped a lot of my music. Like even if like it wasn't people from those environments that like I collaborated with, like I've collaborated
Mm,
with friends on things, but like I think the circumstances those jobs put me in really like
mm,
are things I drew from. Like I'd like be driving home at night from those jobs, and just like that would be where I was writing the songs,
mm.
like in the
That
car.
kind of that kind of goes back to like the very I think it was like the second question or the first question I said where it ties into like your experiences like when you're creating like a like your music or something or like an album. I'm assuming your stories are just based on experiences, so helping with people with special needs and like kids and whatnot, it feels you're creativity a little bit more to add it into your writing. If I'm assuming
Yeah,
that's
no, absolutely. You have
that's
like the arc of where you want it to go, and then you fill it in with all the, even if not the literal experiences, with the feelings that come from them, and then you like connect those feelings to whatever the story is that you're trying to tell.
hmm, that I really like that. When whenever you pull from experiences, again, it just feels that creativity and it flows naturally. And I think that's why I think I also loved your album too, your very first album. It just kind of flowed naturally. It wasn't just like a track here, a track there, and it was like random. Like obviously the switch to electric pop, I feel like that was even a smooth like transition too. It just flowed again naturally, and that's what I loved about it.
Thank you. That's awesome. Like that was a lot of the goal, and I think, yeah, for me, like writing, it tends to be like so personal. I said, and tend to pour so much into it that like it takes on sort of that quality.
Mm.
I forget where I was going with that. I had something and it completely disappeared. I'm not gonna lie to you. Uh, yeah, I don't know.
That's what happens whenever you have something in your head. It just poofs, goes away.
God, yeah, I'm like I'm not getting that back, but that's okay.
Yeah. So then with your with your music in general, it feels warm and honest. When it's like the warm part is your very first album, and your honest part, like I love the whole fun and electric sound, but when it comes to your lyric, it's very honest, very earnest too. So, was there a specific moment in time when creating music became more than just a hobby and turned into a passion?
There's two moments that come to mind, if that's okay. Um,
Yeah.
one for when I, so a funny thing, the first song I wrote for Eve Street as a project was New Year's Day, which is like from my first EP. It's the last song.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually distinctly remember writing that song in like one sitting, being in a really weird spot emotionally, and then listening through it and out loud saying, "Damn, now I have to write an album." Because I was just like, "This is part of a larger project. Like this is like I don't know why I said that, but it's just like, oh, I got to do that now."
Mm-hmm.
And realizing like I have these things I need to put somewhere, and this is where I want to put them.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part is kind of like, because I mentioned that like for me music, like I tend to like put a lot into it, which I feel everyone does, but I can only speak from my experience. I remember
Mm-hmm.
when I was working on Home, it was almost done. I was talking to my mom. I think I played her one of the songs, and I was kind of telling her about the experience and like what inspired these songs and like how, because sometimes the process of writing music can be pretty emotionally turbulent. And she just looked at me and she went, "Are you excited to write the next one?" And I was like, "Whoa." And I realized this thing where the answer was like yes and no, or neither, because like yes, I'm excited to have all these new songs. I'm not excited for like all the like emotional stuff that's gonna probably sometimes be great, or well, that stuff I'm excited for, but sometimes stink that I'm gonna put into it. You know, it's not
Mm-hmm.
like I'm looking forward to that, but I think it's a fact of life. I'm kind of just like, yeah, like I'm always gonna be putting this stuff somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and music is where I'm gonna be putting that. Like I'm realizing like that's how I process these things, and that's what I do with it. I think both of those moments kind of solidified like this is more than just something I do for fun. Like this is something that I love and I like almost have to do.
Yes. I just want to say I love your mom. It sounds like she was like your biggest confidant because she was. I bet she was like listening to that like whatever you showed her like the music and be like, So when you gonna release some more? Like.
Yeah, no, pretty much. We've been having that. She was like, it's always really funny. And she was like, well, are you excited for the next one? I was like, I think so. It's like, I don't know if she knew how much that question struck me. But I was like, but for me, that was like a really profound question. She might have just been like, "So you excited?"
She's more hungry for the next album than like all of us fans at this point. I love that your mom is like your number one fan.
Me too. I feel very grateful.
That's all. That's so sweet. And I love how it's been like a beautiful journey for you for, being like, you know what, this is my moment. I guess I got to keep on going. Not like an I guess. It's more like this is what you're meant for. When it comes to hold on, keyword there. Ah, that is amazing. So, if listeners could take away just one message or a feeling from that album, what would you hope it to be?
That's a really good question, by the way. I, it might just be to like trust yourself and trust to give
Mm.
yourself time, because I think there's so much about this project as a whole and about Hold On that is really about this idea of like growing into the person you are, growing and like trusting yourself in that
Mm-hmm.
process, and like trusting that like that you're going somewhere.
Mm.
Uh and I think if anyone was going to take something from that, it would be reassurance. Just that like, yeah, maybe I can trust myself in this, or even if when it's hard, to just be like, yeah. Because like when an overarching theme through a lot of my music is saying like, there's like a line that pops up a lot throughout my songs where it's like, I wouldn't change a thing, which is
Mm.
like a really central idea of like, even if I don't feel sure now, like I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to look back a year and say I wouldn't change a thing because now I see where it was going.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I totally get that vibe from like just listening to your music again and then with Hold On too. Like we live in a time where giving up is the easiest answer, but we can't feed into it. We got to work around it. Um so for people out there that wants to, they don't know where to start, again, like what you were saying about your music, it started with guitar and then you just go on from there. So kind of just find your little niche or your little skill and just keep going and carry it on, carry it through you. Don't just like be like, "Oh, I don't know what to do," and there's nothing for me. There is something for you out there. Just don't give up
I,
on it.
I think, yeah, if I had to share, like, hopefully I didn't cut you off.
No.
I had to share, like, one of the most impactful things anyone ever said to me before I ever released music. I remember I was showing them the demo of like demos for growth, and they were like, "Oh, that's really cool." I was like, "Well, if I was a musician or something," and my friend just full stopped me, went, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You are a musician. You play instruments. You
Yes.
make music. You're a musician. You did it." And I think that's one of the most valuable things anyone ever said to me, because it's really easy to get stuck in that headspace of, well, if I was a musician, it's like, even if you haven't made a full song, like if you have, like, the most important thing is not innate talent or knowledge. Like obviously that stuff helps, but I feel like there's this feeling of knowing that you want to do this. And if
Mhm.
you can play an instrument, or if you've ever written anything, if you've never made a single cent from it, you're still a musician and you have something valuable to say. It was in like my first semester at Berkeley. One of my teachers, we were all talking, and she just went, "I don't get why anyone would want to hear you pretend to be anyone other than yourself."
Yes.
And I was like, "Whoa!" And that's amazing how you can like still kind of play a character in music, but still be saying something genuine, because there's only one person like you. There's only one person with your voice, and that's the only experience you can speak authoritatively on. And yeah, I feel like start, just as awful as it sounds with starting music, it's like just start, because
Yes.
like some of the most fun you can have in production, I don't get me wrong, I still have a lot of fun doing it. Some of the most fun you can have is when you have no idea what you're doing and you're kind of just clicking buttons, and like it's like, oh, I like the way that sounds, or oh, I really don't like the way that sounds. And yeah, like I remember when I was learning guitar, another very valuable thing. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling. Uh,
Yeah.
Another thing my teacher taught me, who was like, I was like, I feel like every time we go on to a new song, like I'm breaking the rules you just taught me. He said, yeah, because I'm teaching you the rules so you know how to break them.
Mm.
Like there are no hard rules in music. Like you can explore these things, and if you think something is cool, it's cool. Um, Later on you might decide like, oh, it wasn't great, but there's often something there. Like you didn't have the ability yet, but you had the desire and the vision.
Mm. I That is always so great to hear. Like another thing to add too, whenever you are, making stuff, making music, making content, or making art, it's okay to make mistakes because then that's how you learn to grow and improve on your mistakes. Don't just be in there to be perfect all the time because then that's going to stress you out and that's what's going to make you give up more. Um, and so it's just again it's okay to go in there and make mistakes and like you said too, like downplaying yourself. We're like, for people who are downplaying themselves, like as of now we're not doing that. If you are an artist, like if you draw, you are an artist. If you play guitar, um an instrument, you are a musician. If you
You're a
create
musician.
videos or post something on social media that you enjoy, you yourself is like a content creator. You're anything you can be, want to be in more. So I love these encouraging words. I love bringing like people together to know
I,
about all these things. Like they're not
I,
alone.
yeah, I love it too. It's like even with vocalists, like you hear a lot of people go, "Well, I can't sing," and I'm like, "This is gonna sound really bad. Hear me out on this." I feel like some of my favorite vocalists aren't particularly good singers. Like obviously
Yes.
Phoebe Bridgers and Porter Robinson have had a lot of time to hone their craft and things. And like you look at an artist like Alex G, don't get me wrong, he can sing. But if you look at his
Mm-hmm.
old stuff where he was breaking every rule, every rule.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you still have people listening to that and saying there's something special about it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's about finding your voice in all
Exactly.
of it.
At 100%. Like you don't have to be a powerhouse vocalist like Mariah Carey or Ariana Grande. Like you don't. Some of my favorite artists don't even like quite sing. Like if they have like a nice raspy tone, or they could just sing the same note. It's what the beats that get me. If you got a good beat, okay, that's all that matters. I don't care.
And like you said, the thing I really struck me about like getting hung up on things like being perfect, or I think you said something about it, I
Yes.
believe.
Yes.
Um, and I feel like it's this interesting thing where like don't get me wrong, I fully understand the desire to like make something you're working on perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you've been working on it, it's hard to but to be like, it's fine. But I think there's a certain level to it where like the fact that things aren't perfect is what makes them special. Like that's what makes them human. Like we kind of discovered like
Yes.
when we like chased like with DAWs, like where we record music on our computers, we were like, wait, now we have to figure out how to make them sound imperfect, like when we were recording with tape, because we missed that.
Yeah.
Like that's things that make them feel real, make them special.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's excellent. Like this has been such a beautiful interview with you. That's fire. I think this is like one of my favorites because we just got into the topics of like everything. It was like a mixture of mostly like gaming, which oh my god. Final question before we end this whole thing. Like, I just gotta know if your music belonged in any video game, which game do you think it would be and why? Like, what would fit best?
This is also a hard question, but a really, really good question. I was like, I got to think about this one. I did want to throw in one fun fact about like that is not all of the songs on this upcoming project. Sorry, I realize I'm going like that a lot.
Oh yeah, no, no, you're fine. I'm doing that too. I was like, yes.
Oh no, it wasn't. I like saw my camera. I was like, how long have I been holding that pose? Is a lot of the songs like Hold On in particular. Like I remember when I just started working on them, I was like, I want a lot of these songs to have like one lyric that like references a video game, like some line from a video game. So in like Hold On in particular, there was the line, "But how well we fought trying to build what's sacred," which was written in reference to Red Dead Redemption 2,
Oh,
where there's this line that Dutch says where he goes, "Oh, what a life we've lived, how well we have fought." I was like, "Oh, I really like that. Like, what if I kind of twisted that into
I
like
like
the
that.
effort we put into like trying to force something to be like correct when it's not."
Mm-hmm.
But to answer the actual question, I feel like maybe Celeste, because even though my music is a little different than that, it, especially the newer stuff kind of orbits around that sound, and her Lena Rain, I don't know how to say her name, I apologize.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
her work has been really influential on me, and I feel like that would be where it would fit.
Ah, love it. Love it, love it. I haven't played Celeste in a long time,
Great
so
game.
I gotta get back on that.
Me too.
So yeah. Well, thanks for reaching to the very end of this interview. Um, Shout out for Eve Street for coming on and doing this. I really love again your music. I love the conversations that we made. If you could just say like any final words, um, including like album release and possibly album title. Do you have anything for us?
Okay, fun. I might. Um, assuming I don't change my mind in the next couple of weeks before it comes out.
Okay, okay.
Assuming nothing changes. Well, first of all, thank you so much. This has been incredible. Like this was awesome. I was so excited to get to do this. I love the talk we got to have, like from talking about video games to music. It was really
Yes.
fun. So knock on wood, it should hopefully come out on the 27th of this month. And unless I change my mind, the album is called Rebirth.
Rebirth.
Yes.
Chef's kiss. Love it.
Okay, that's what I was hoping. I was like, that'd be really bad if I said that. I was like, I was like,
No.
that's how I'll gauge if I gotta think of a new name.
No. Rebirth is absolutely perfect. You change it, that's up to you because you're the artist. You make up your own world. Anything could change at this moment. But Rebirth is
It feels pretty
perfect.
right.
It feels pretty right so far. And then you said July 27th, correct?
Yes.
Fingers crossed. So, where can where can people find you on social media?
So you can find me on obviously on like this isn't really social media I guess, but like on streaming platforms, you know, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. I have a Bandcamp. I've kind of neglected. I need to upload stuff to that. That's my bad.
Mm-hmm.
On social media, I have a Instagram is where I'm the most active. evestreet.ct is I believe my handle. Great way to get in contact with me. That's I don't post a ton, but that's what I post when I'm releasing things or talking about music. Yeah, if you
Okay.
need to get in contact with me anyway, that would probably be the best channel to do it. I also have a TikTok with the same handle, but I don't know if I've
So
been as active on there.
so everything is evestreet.ct or is it e
Yeah, Eve Street, like just the full like written out, and then .ct.
.ct? Okay, for all social media handles, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And if you guys want to follow me, again, it's roxcat.management on Instagram. I believe on Twitter as well. And on YouTube, instead of a dot in between management, it's an underscore. So that's where you'll find me.
Everyone
That's
follow her, okay? She's doing awesome work. Like
Thank
really,
you.
it is awesome.
Thank you. Again, thank you for so much time. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next interview. Bye.